Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to the latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Endurance, written by LeVentNoir. First of us, star children, old ones, the sleepers, humanity. There were many names for the species that first explored the universe. Then they left, retreated to their own colonies, and lived, and lived, and lived. In time, other species rose up, lived, and died. Some of them explored, others researched. Few imploded, rarely they warred. The wars are what concerns us, dear reader, as while the wars between the lesser species are of historical interest and note, they are nothing compared to the lesson that you are about to receive. The external empire of the Extraxes sat comfortably, for there were no enemies of note and no targets of opportunity. It was there a cold and dangerous idea took a festering root within the culture. What if we could fight the first of us? The idea was said quietly, but the right people heard. It seemed to be an idea of outstanding arrogance, only matched by that of humanity. Recluse, quiet, and ancient. Humanity flew between the stars in ships built before the Extraxes had even formed stone tools. These ancient and outdated craft would be no match, surely. What right did their stagnant, stale species have to the worlds they claimed? The Extraxes formed a coalition. Mighty battle fleets were arrayed. Weapons tech, arcane and unknown, was mounted and calibrated. Worlds were stripped for materials to make such crafts and weapons of war. The armada grew, and only as it neared the planned size did the inherent imbalance of the empire made itself known. One commander, for a petty reason lost to history, fractured the coalition, and an age of burning, glowing war enveloped the external empire. Humanity, aloof and distant, seemed to watch. Stars grew and flamed out. More species flocked to the light of the stars. The hive, as it knew itself, thought over 1,000,000 worlds with 1,000,000,000,000 brains and magnitudes more bodies. It hungered. It always did. Nothing was enough to sate it. The species it crushed and consumed was small and fleeting. Expansion was everything. It was not even aware of the importance and age of old ones, merely that there was space to expand. The space-borne forms of the hive sailed to the planets of humanity. With claw and spine, acid and brawn, they assaulted the planets. The external empire had never closed to combat with humanity, but the hive was the first to do so. Like waves upon a cliff, the hive broke upon humanity, sloshing back and forth in a weak motion against a cold and passionate stone. Humanity did not strive to defeat the hive. Hunger ate the hive from within. The tide retreated, leaving the cliffs standing. These empty spaces beckoned, but humanity had seen it before. They stayed on their worlds, their fortresses blank and featureless in the dark. Whispers of submersion stretched out from the species that rose to the stars. An underground movement came together. A perverted nihilist expression of meaningless. The cult entered the ears and eyes of species across the universe. Where it touched, rot festered. Collapse and failure trailed in its wake. It did not conquer through arms for status. It did not kill to feed an internal hunger. It merely opened people's eyes to the reality it claimed. The destruction and perversion was a reaction to the horrifying truth. The tendrils of these ideas met the worlds of humanity, broadcast in old channels, psychically injected into minds, exported with every means available. A fog of philosophical corruption surrounded the sleepers. Here it is required to explain a few things about humanity. That explains what we turn to next. Humanity is a seemingly physically unremarkable species. Their only physiological achievement was in the form of persistence hunting, able to run for a distance and speeds far beyond that of any prey animal and other spacefaring species. With technology, this of course is irrelevant. The cultural effect of such an evolutionary origin are much more interesting. Even before the development of civilization, in an ordered fashion, humans exhibited an amazing ability for persistence. Their structures would last multiple generations, and their stories would be memorized. In this fashion, the creations of humanity outlasted humans. Technology and development gave science the spread needed to improve humanity. Only human can reproduce early in its life. it will routinely live for 10 generations or more. Their physical bodies have a remarkable resilience to the passage of time, and with little exterior threat, persist for exceptional periods. Even as long-lived as the bodies are, humanity's constructs last longer still. Their ships are in pristine working condition aeons after construction. Constant repair, maintenance, and improvement mean that no single piece of the ship may be original, but the concept of the ship endures. In this fashion, we come to the most dangerous and resilient of humanity's creations, the doctrine of organized and specialized thinking, philosophy. Philosophy arose shortly after the invention of writing, and a number of otherwise dangerous ideas were able to be expressed, considered, and handled in a safe manner. Records from other species indicate that democracy has a higher civilization failure causal rate than the development of nuclear weapons. Utilitarianism is responsible for some of the worst recorded atrocities and the most stagnant and unresponsive realms. It was through this lens that humanity was able to view the cult. Nihilism was an old idea for humanity and easily dismissed. There is no purpose, no truth, no beauty. The cult was itself destructive. Humanity accepted these truths. Humanity looked into the abyss, and the abyss looked back. Then spoke the Star Children. There is no reason to endure, but we shall. Through pain, darkness, death, and time, we shall remain, not in search of something, not in the hope of something, but because we can. We have the stronger weapon. Our ideas are forged and hardened. Understand this. We endure because we can. The dark will not harm us. We have the freedom of will to look upon eternity and our place within it and choose to continue. Reader, the cult broke against the worlds of humanity and burnt itself out as the last embers of a fire. More species rise and fall, but quietly constant are the old ones. The human may die, their buildings and worlds may crumble, but their ideas live on. Humanity endures. When the heat death takes the universe at the end of time, humanity may even be there, quietly refusing to accept even that. Humanity is dangerous, not because it is aggressive or expansive, not because it's subversive or corrupting. Humanity is dangerous because you will only defeat yourself should you conflict. They will endure you. Story number 2, Waging War, written by LgFatherAnthrocite. Throughout the multiverse, war raged. Sorcerers used ancient rituals to launch massive assaults. Mages cast spells to mow down infantry. Magically endowed weapons pierced armor, and magically strengthened armor deflected weapons. Worlds rose and fell as armies marched through portals to new lands. When new spells and rituals were discovered, they were stripped down, analyzed, and rebuilt even stronger. Imagine it. Imagine the horror of seeing a massive monster summoned from nothing, only to have it walk unhindered through your defenses, annihilate your armies, and leave your last bastion of defense laid open for invaders to waltz in and conquer. For millennia, wars raged, as one dimension after another was invaded, and once a world was added to the empire, the next world fell that much more quickly. One day, a portal was opened to Earth. At first, the invaders were surprised. There was little magic in the new world, and what little there was stagnant, almost as if these people never used magic. Mages and sorcerers were useless. Their spells and rituals would fail without magic to power them. Generals sent through infantry armed with spears and swords. They were met with forces armed with weapons that had never been seen before. But the enchanted armor they wore deflected the strange metal stones the weapons launched. But soon, the enchantments began to fail. There was no magic to defeat them, and defending against the bullets of the enemy quickly drained what magic the armor contained. The weapons they managed to capture contained no glyphs, circles, or spells. There was no magic in the guns. Without magic to analyze, there was no way to turn this new enemy's weapon against them. On Earth, the armed forces of the planet were in constant contact, exchanging information about the invading forces. After initially overrunning the defenders, the invading forces soon fell to static gunfire. Whatever initial power protected them wore off and eventually left them defenseless to modern weapons. For some reason, the invading forces kept attacking with medieval weapons. They had some small anti-personnel weapons, but they never used more than a half dozen in any engagement. Eventually, some special ops groups were able to sneak into the portals and managed to gather intel on the whole world of the invasion. It was then that the difference between Earth and the invading force became clear, though initially no one believed it. Magic was the main power source of the enemy. They had no advanced technical capabilities. This information was relayed quickly to defending military leaders around the globe. It was verified by several different militaries. However unbelievable, it was the truth. Captured troops were interrogated and findings were corroborated. Magic, the driving force behind the enemy, was almost non-existent here on Earth. After being driven back at every incursion, the invaders began to get desperate. Finally, to announce any kind of success, they took drastic measures. A massive creature, easily as tall as an electrical tower, strode through the portal into the empty field where Earth's defenders had created a bulkhead against the incoming forces. Its skin was purple, like an angry bruise. It had massive ram-like horns and giant bat wings. Inside the portal, massed troops were waiting for the giant summoned beast to tear through the defenders so they could follow through and occupy the area, and finally begin the invasion properly. As the creature came through, gunfire and various artillery slammed into it, only to bounce off its tough hide. As the ground troops tried to drive the beast back, a call went out. After several minutes of pointless assault, the defenders suddenly began to retreat, the massive demon pushing them back. Seeing this, the invaders began to march through the portal in a massive column of foot troops. Suddenly, a new noise arose, filling the invading forces' ears with a constant roaring noise. Foot soldiers prepared for a horde of defenders to come streaming onto the field of battle. What they got instead was a pair of strange birds that shrieked through the skies without moving their wings. Each one dropped a single object and then flew off. The foot soldiers were beginning to think there was no danger, when all of a sudden a firestorm enveloped them, the giant beast, and the entire area. Beyond the portal, the enemy commands watched as unstoppable fire burned their troops to ash, with not a single defender being caught in the pyroclasm. One day shortly thereafter, Earth unleashed nuclear fire on the far side of the portals, decimating the forces on standby. Soon afterwards, war in the multiverse was quelled. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.